to another episode of the Nut series from NetUtils, where NetUtils talk security. My name is Malcolm Orekoya. I'm the CTO at NetUtils, and I'm joined by JP from our SOC partner, Barracuda. Hi, JP.
Hello, Malcolm. How are you? It's great to be joined again, and thanks very much for having us on.
No worries, always a pleasure to have a nice conversation with you. So as always, the Nut series is a very conversational piece where we spend about 15 minutes or so basically talking about different important things in the cybersecurity space. And today we wanted to focus on the topic of taking a cyber-centric approach and what does that look like. So JP, we've had many conversations around this many times. But we wanted to try and break it down for our listeners of what it actually means when we're talking about taking a cyber-centric approach and how that's changed over time. So we figured we'd start by looking at what the IT landscape looked like in the past, what it currently looks like now, what it potentially could look like in the future, and how all of those things map to what a good cyber-centric MSP should be doing nowadays, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we were just mentioned it before we jumped on. You know, how important is it to distill it down and make it, you know, consumable for everybody? Because, you know, cyber's a problem for lots of small to medium businesses out there, but for their employees, you know, for the staff, and making sure it's easy to understand. So you know, anywhere we can do to, you know, enhance that message is only going to be a good thing. And you know, definitely NetUtils have done a tremendous job in sort of paving the way and trying to make that message clear and understandable, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And the focus is obviously to try and make it short, concise, and not tech heavy, just conversation so we understand what's going on. So, okay, so let's look at basically what the differences are then from what we're currently dealing with at the moment and in terms of the landscape and what we dealt with in the past. So we've spoken many times about how the typical MSP looked like in the past. A lot of it was break fix IT, if you want to call it that, where there was focus on obviously central administration of different parts of the infrastructure and, you know, advanced support services essentially. So, you know, obviously doing your first to second line, third line support, change management and all of that stuff, and dealing with software, hardware issues and all of that. And that pretty much was what kind of constituted an MSP going back, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. Then that was fine. Obviously, the landscape has changed heavily over the last few years, with more things going out onto the internet, with cloud getting more adopted, both by, you know, existing customers, new customers, but also the MSPs as well, adopting cloud infrastructure and all that. So all of that's changed, and what we currently have now in the present is obviously a different type of customer, a different type of landscape. And I'm sure you guys see that from a Barracuda perspective, because also your infrastructure is cloud-based as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, you're right. And you know, that, let's take a 20-year time horizon. You know, you had the break fix like you talked about, and it was okay then to maybe have things like just, you know, a firewall to protect your environment, but there's more complexity now. I think there's 4 areas that have sort of moved it along, Malcolm. You know, naturally there's that lack of talent that we keep talking about in cybersecurity, but there's more data, massive increase in data at every company. Seeing a stat where, you know, even for the average employee uses something like 31 apps, you know, in working and executing on their job every day. So more data. The past 3 years, we've seen more data created than the beginning of time. So that's been one driver. And I think as well, at the same time, you've got more complexity. As you just said, the movement from the traditional perimeter to cloud has been a good thing. You know, but again, it's opened up an attack surface as well, a different attack surface. So regardless of the size of business you have, there's more complexity to securing that. And then the other two things are probably working hand in hand, Malcolm, and digital transformation. COVID has accelerated a lot of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone sort of talked about the office with legs, so it's like everyone is remote. We have a geopolitical circumstances now that's again moving that threat landscape, which is the other piece. Attackers have it's become easier for them to carry out bad things to good people, and we've seen that nearly 50% of all breaches today are focused on the mid-market. So they're the things like more data, it's getting more complex. Digital transformation is moving at a pace that it's hard for everyone to keep up, and that threat landscape is making it even more difficult as well. So I think the one writing factor, just sort of to tee it up for you, and I'd be interested in your opinion. The one writing factor, and you're right, from break fix movement to managed service providers is one thing, but I think it's so important now for businesses to have strong relationships and partnerships with their MSP, because what we have today is a managed service on IT and digital transformation and helping you there, but you're going to want to really have a strong relationship with your MSP, because the future, and we'll get to that, but the future means unless you have that strong relationship, it's going to be a bit more bumpy, a good bit more bumpy for those that have a good program in place, And I think NetUtils have, you've led the way on that piece. You might speak to a little bit. It'd be interesting to hear, like, what does good look like for
So no, we've definitely hit on quite a few important things there, and one of them obviously talking about the MSP and what it looks like at the moment and what it needs to look like in the future. So certainly we've found at NetUtils that over the last probably 5-7 years, and more so over the last 24 months, with obviously what's happened with the pandemic, etc. And like you said, with what did you say, with the legs?
Office with legs.
Office with legs, right?
Legs.
Exactly. So that's changed quite a lot of things. So instead of the focus being, keeping the lights on, making sure that everything that we are managing on behalf of the customer is, available, and it's got redundancy, and our change control and our service assurance is up to par. Now moving into the future, as you said, those are secondary sort of given things that the customers expect from the MSP. The primary things nowadays are actually for the MSP to be cyber-centric, because the data is more, the landscape is more difficult, the hackers are becoming smarter, more intelligent with their resources and their funding as well. So the customer at the end of the day actually is in a very, very difficult position, because they can't keep up on their own for a mid-market, as you pointed out. So there's several things that you mentioned there. So for a mid-market customer, right, to keep up with what is actually happening in the cybersecurity space at the moment, it is extremely difficult. They would have to probably have a full-time security employee or something like that. So therefore, they have to rely heavily on the relationship that they have with their MSP, and make sure that that MSP is moving in the correct direction of being cyber-centric. What does cyber-centric actually mean? It means that the infrastructure, right, that enables people to work is a given. It's almost like a commodity. So no one really wants to talk about the firewalls and the access points and the switches and the access control and all of that stuff, because if you don't have that, then you don't have an infrastructure. But what people need to be focused on is the security overlay on top of those things. Things like, okay, access control, but is two-factor across the board? Is it got geolocation mapping? Have you got visibility and correlation of all of your logs from different systems, so you can get real-time, as close to real-time incident response as possible. Have you got an MSP that is focusing and keeping abreast of what's going on in the industry so that they keep you up to date on what's actually going on, and they are constantly looking to swap in and swap out the best of technologies under the same service agreements that you have? I mean, in theory, some of that's been in place by many MSPs for a while, but in practice, they've not been executing on those things. But now, for an MSP to actually succeed and be perceived as very valuable to their customer in the future, they need to be actually executing on those things. And finally, as you say, that ties into essentially what NetUtils have done over the last 18 months or so, which is heavily map all of those different things that we see as important into a managed service cybersecurity platform, which we won't talk specifically about it, but if you went to our website, it's the first thing you see on our website. But what does it actually mean? Why have we put together these series of services, of which there are probably, I don't know, 15 or 18 or so individual services that form a cybersecurity platform ranging from bronze, silver, gold, and platinum? Why have we put them together? The reason why we put them together is as you grow through the bronze, silver, gold, and platinum service, you're increasing your relationship and your capabilities to deal with all of the threats and all of the issues that one has to deal with in this cybersecurity world. So the first one, for example, bronze, most of the services that sit within the bronze are the bare essentials, like the basics of what you need. In fact, any size organization from 2 users to 20,000 users, the bronze is like the bare essentials. If you don't want to do anything else, or you want to run, an organization in this digital world that we live in, you need the bare essentials, right? After that, you then need a trusted partner, as I've already talked about, that you can actually rely on for other things and other services. And that's where the silver part comes in. You can't do it alone. There's a lot of collaboration, not just between MSPs, not just between vendors, not just between customers, but then a mesh between all of the three as well. And that's very important as well. So picking the right partners, whether it's distribution, vendors, customers, et cetera, is very, very important. And then as you travel through that platform into the gold, you start looking at compliance requirements and advanced auditing and visibility requirements. And then finally, into the platinum, you start looking at very advanced security and cybersecurity services, such as that provided by Barracuda in their SOC, giving you full detection and response capabilities, incident response capabilities, tying in logs from all parts of your network. And when I say all, I mean you guys. I get your emails, often where new connectors all the time. So the reason why you're doing that and spending so much time and development funds, I'm sure, is you want to pull as much information into one single platform, so that you can get that full visibility. And so all of those things are essentially what it requires, or what is required rather, to be a cyber-centric MSP, and you can't do it alone. Hence, the partnership with the likes of you guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting hearing it from you as well. Like you live and breathe it every day, Malcolm, and with your customers. It sort of strikes me a little bit. It's a bit like, God forbid if somebody was sick, right? And we're going to distill it down here into what it probably means. If you're sick, you go to your doctor, and the doctor gives you the prescription to get better. And it's your choice to take the medicine. And it feels a little bit like that now. It's moving away from a world where people probably had a choice in doing executing on certain things in terms of their IT, and it's just a basic requirement. So there's basic cyber hygiene that's needed to protect you. And again, I mean, it's funny. Last week I went in to change the tires on my car, the family car, and the guy said to me, well, do you want the good tires or do you want the cheaper ones?
Budget ones.
The budget ones. Well, I said, like, I have 5 kids. I'd rather be safe on the road, and I'll go with the good tires, and so it's a little bit like that as well, where you have a choice, but it's moving quick. The tempo of cyber issues means that the quicker you can adopt a strong cyber program, the better. And proactivity is key in all of that. And I think the sooner that organizations have security top of mind, or indeed, frankly, those that don't have it top of mind, it will be very, very challenging for them over the next number of years, because the tempo it's moving so fast. We've had examples, lots of examples of end businesses that frankly had significant issues, whether it's you talk about ransomware, or fraud and all of the things that can happen, issues that really related back to the old way of doing it, where, for example, they had advice from their MSP to say, hey, you need to move your backup online or whatever and not taking the medicine. So the sooner MSPs can standardize on good, better, best, and the sooner that customers can adopt the program based on their appetite, the better for everyone, because there's clarity as well then on what you're getting and what you're not getting, and then clarity on the journey. So we love our analogies, and I'm going to use the last one, but we're for a business now today, it's like driving down the motorway and you're going at, let's say, 100 miles an hour, and that's your cyber posture movement. You're always improving, you have to keep going, and you think you're going fast, you're going 100 miles an hour. The problem is the cybersecurity problem is going at 200 miles an hour. So we're always trying to keep up, catch up. So the more focus you give cybersecurity, whether that's go out and speak to your staff today and raise awareness, right through to adopting a program that's strong and bring it, the better for us. You'll narrow that gap, and that's the way we sort of look at it, Malcolm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can certainly finish probably on that actually, which to me can be summarized by basically partnership. Really, the client's partnership with the MSP, the MSP's partnership with their vendors as well, because all of those things have to be continuously moving. The customer needs to be continuously moving, and then they need an MSP that's continuously moving, and the MSP needs a vendor that's continuously moving, et cetera, because of course the malicious users are also continuously moving. So,
and it's been great, Malcolm, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you. And then obviously anyone that is tuning in, hope there was a little bit of sharing of information, and anywhere at all we can spread that message is only going to be a good thing. So thank you for letting me to jump on with you.
Absolutely, JP. Always a pleasure to discuss these things. And thank you very much for your time. Hopefully that was of some value to everyone listening, just getting a bit of a landscape of what's going on in the industry and what the expectations are. As always, you can go to the NetUtil's website and see more about the cybersecurity platform that I talked about. And of course, just get in touch as and when you need to. Have a lovely day, everyone. Take care.